Hi, I'm Chef Chad. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be making some chicken stock. This is using the bones and the scraps from the chickens that I cut up in an earlier video. So to that, I'm just going to add some carrots. I'm going to cut those up into relatively 1-inch pieces or so. Those are going to go in there. They're going to add some flavor, a little bit of color. I try to cook my chicken stock at generally a lower simmer than I cook my beef stock, because I don't want it to be dark, and the longer you cook those carrots, the darker it will get. But I do want to have a little bit of color, because if you have a white chicken stock, it just doesn't look all that natural to me. Everyone expects there to be yellowish, even though that's usually food coloring, but I don't want to put any food coloring in there. I'm going to put a couple bay leaves in there. I'm going to put a bunch of parsley. I also have some tarragon. I'm going to put a sprig or two of that in there. I've got some rosemary, a sprig of that in there, and I also have some thyme. So we're going to do that. I will also be adding an onion into that, which I did not get out. You've seen an onion chopped up before. I will leave the skin on it and just put it in there. I'll let this all come up from a cold water to a simmer. The cold water slowly starts to build up the heat, and it draws out more of the nutrients from the vegetables and the aromatics and the chicken itself. It will, I'm not adding any salt. I will add salt at the end, because I let this cook down. From this, which is a 12-quart pot, I probably got about 8 quarts of water in there. From that, I'll probably get 5, maybe 6 quarts of stock by the time I strain it and let it simmer for quite a while. And I take that and I put it in a pressure cooker, pressure canner, and I can that, and I have fresh chicken broth whenever I need it. So I'm going to move this over to the stove, and we'll move the camera, and we'll discuss a little bit more over there. All right, we've moved the stock over to the stove. I've got it on low, which is about 3 on my stove is what I do. I've added an onion that you can see I've quartered up, and I've added some garlic. I've just cut that in half. I also is going to add some flavor, and I have some peppercorns. I'm just going to stir this all together. You'll see the chicken in there, and I'm going to let this simmer total probably about 4 hours. Now, this is a stock, not a broth. In case you watched the earlier one with beef, that was a broth because it didn't have bones in it. At least that's what I've always considered the difference. There are different schools of thought on that. The stock from the bones, because of the cartilage and the gelatin and stuff that will come out of those bones as they cook, will give a stock generally a thicker mouthfeel. And if you were to boil that all the way down slowly, you could end up with an aspic, which is more of a gelatin. That's kind of like a Thanksgiving dinner, or anytime you cook a whole chicken and there's that chicken jello, or turkey jello I call it, that when the pan cools. And that's what you want. That's going to add a lot of the flavor, mouthfeel, and texture to the dish instead of just a watery, thin soup. So we're going to let this go. I'll film a little bit high speed now and then to make the time pass, but don't watch it too long, because we don't want it to boil. Or watch it, because then it won't boil. Thank you. All right, hi, I've got 2 different stocks here. If you watched the spatchcock chicken video, this is all the scraps and bones from that. I added a couple shallots, some celery, and I made a stock out of that. It's gonna have a lot more flavor to it. It's got the lime, the tangine, the chili powder. I'm just gonna strain that through my fine chinois, into another pan. Try not to make too big of a mess, make sure I've got room in that pan. And this scraps I'm just going to be throwing away, but that is going to make a very nice chicken tortilla soup. So I'm going to put that back here, leave that simmering on this back burner, and then I'm going to start straining the regular chicken stock into this other pan here. There's a little bit of the flavoring from the previous stock, but shouldn't matter too much. Very carefully pour this in there. I don't know if this will all fit into the pot because it's just a 4-quart pot. So as I cook that down a little bit more, I will be streaming more into it as the day goes by. So that's going to cook down. You see I've got sort of a nice, it's a little cloudy, a little more darker than I wanted it, but the flavor is there. You've got all that good gelatin from the chicken bones. And that is also going to make a really nice stock. I will probably be canning about 3 quarts of that, and then I'll save some of it to make a velouté sauce, which will be probably one of the next videos, as well as the soup. So thanks for coming. Hope you try some of this at home and get in the kitchen and cook something.